Hey everybody. Um, so today's verse of the day, this one I think will be pretty short. Well, I say that and it won't be, is Proverbs chapter 13, verse 3. So, here it is. Verse 3. Those who control their tongue will have a long life. Opening your mouth can ruin everything or earthing. So, super short verse. And it's almost like uh, in a sense, self-explanatory. And I think maybe even if you don't know the Lord, you know, read the Bible, um, just from standpoint, we understand that sometimes we can, when we get out of, start talking, saying stuff maybe we shouldn't be saying, um, can ruin everything. But if you can control it, will lead to a long life. But simply saying a word that maybe you shouldn't have said can destroy everything. Um, so of course that's like, you read it, that's kind of just self-explanatory. But hopefully what we can gain from this is getting the fuller scope of the book. So Proverbs is part of like a collection of wisdom books along with Job and Ecclesiastes. So these are books that, are a collection of wisdom. So beginning of the Proverbs is, associated with Solomon, who was considered the most wise person in the Bible. He asked God for wisdom when God was like, "Hey, what do you want?" And he was like, "I want wisdom to lead your people." And God said, "Since you asked for wisdom, I'm going to give you wisdom. And you didn't ask for all this other stuff, so I'm going to give it to you." So Solomon had amazing God-given wisdom, super wise. He made this collection of just wisdom over like everything, and so it's kind of so like the first like couple chapters, I think it was like 9 chapters of Proverbs, is like a conversation of, son, gain wisdom, you should have wisdom, listen, seek after her, and then they use wisdom as this lady wisdom, that follow her, chase after her. So when you're in these decisions, you have to make that you will seek seek God's wisdom, as opposed to fall into foolishness. And from that, so gain wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So once we have a healthy fear of the Lord, that sometimes it's a hard thing because we use the understanding of fear. We fear the Lord, and it's not fear in the sense He's going to strike me down any moment or hit me with this, knock me over the head with a stick. The fear of the Lord is having a right reverence for God. So understanding that, who He is. I don't just come flippantly to Him. He's holy, He's righteous, He's loving, He's kind. But I don't come to Him with a sense of like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay, God, I'm giving you my worship, and it's, it's whatever, God, and just this real flippant attitude. So having a healthy fear of the Lord, so all of that, having the understanding of the first books pours into then what we read in chapter 13, verse 3. Because if you read like 10, I think like chapter 10 to like 29, it's just little sayings. Some of them it's not even like a story. It's just little connections. It's almost like the book of Proverbs. So it's like little, like wisdom nuggets, just that you kind of pull that they've said and just throw them out there. It's like, like we have those, simple sayings that we kind of use, a stitch in time saves 9. It's not a proverb, but it's something like that, where it's, if you stitch it up now, you don't have to wait till later on when it's really bad, and then you have to use 9 stitches as opposed to 1. So it's kind of like that, but these are connections based on the whole book of Proverbs. Like, hey, if you listen to this, the idea is you do this, then probably you'll have a great life by listening to the wisdom given in these books. Of course, none of it is like a definite, because life is not that way, but it's just an understanding of how to do it. So again, those who control their tongue will have a long life. It's not a promise to you saying because you know how to control your tongue, you'll have a long life. What it is, it's a guide to, generally when you do this, it will lead to a long life for you. And opening your mouth though can ruin everything. So I hope it's a strong thing. And then obviously there's other books. James talks about the power of the tongue. James 3, I think it's 3, talks about the power of the tongue. So read that, because it just like it uses the analogy of the smallest flame and the smallest flicker can start a huge fire. That's the power that's within our tongue. You have a great ship, but it's steered by a tiny rudder. So the tiny tongue that we have has the power to uplift, and at the same time it can destroy somebody completely. So if you don't know how to control that thing, you can push yourself in a lot of trouble. And we can get so, especially us as Americans, get so caught up in having to speak, having to fill in that gap. We get so uncomfortable with those awkward pauses, awkward silence, rather than taking the time and just sometimes it's probably best to just be quiet and let others speak, especially those who probably know more than us. So again, we control the tongue by understanding, asking God wisdom. Teach me at the times I shouldn't speak, which probably is more often than not. And the times that I do speak, let my words be chosen correctly. And then but as you gather these other points from Proverbs, the other things, you understand, oh, wow, saying this is not going to help somebody. Being quiet at this moment will, and then a good example is in Job. If you read the book of Job, there's a lot of parts where there's like this whole conversation, and Job went through something really horrible, and these other friends start to speak and try and convince Job it was his fault, and they keep speaking and speaking and speaking, as opposed to maybe they should have just sat and been there with Job, allowed Job to mourn and just been with him. So anyway, I hope this verse blessed you. I can't wait for tomorrow's verse. And if you have any questions, please definitely post it. If you have a counterpoint, don't post it, because I don't want to hear anybody talk against me. No, post it, or I definitely. The whole point of Proverbs is a wisdom book. So if you have more wisdom to pour out, please, I want to hear it. But anyway, we'll talk to y'all tomorrow.